Hi, welcome to D-ConneXion TV. I'm Donzale Powell with D-Connex LLC. And today we're going to have the University of Tennessee County Technical Assistance Service with us. So I am so excited to hear about all of the amazing things that they're doing for our local community and in Tennessee. All right, so I'm going to have them introduce themselves very briefly. If you could, you can go ahead and get started. Let's start with you, John.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Walden. I'm the Executive Director of the County Technical Assistance Service. I've actually been working with the university a little over 28 years with the same department, and I love working with county government.
Hello, I'm Chris Payne. I've been with the County Technical Assistance Service for 23 years. I'm a training consultant and work in our many training programs that help county government officials and employees learn more about being good employees and officials.
I love, number one, I love the tenure. So thank you for doing this work. And in fact, when I first heard about what you all were doing, I was thinking, wow, I feel like I'm kind of in the know. And I had no idea that there was this whole operation going to ensure that the government and everything goes well. So appreciate this. I'm very excited for us to kind of delve in and hear a little bit more about it. So if you could let's just start with a general overview. If you can kind of tell us why the program is here, what exactly are some of the things that you do?
So CTAS was created in 1973 at the urging of county officials. There's a sister agency of ours, the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, that worked with cities and municipalities across the state, which was created in 1950. And counties wanted something similar. So in 1973, the General Assembly created CTAS, and we've sort of been in business ever since. We provide what we call technical assistance and training. We're a little unique as compared to other entities across the country in that we actually work hand in hand with the officials in his or her office. So we have 8 county government consultants that we call them, and he or she has anywhere from 10 to 15 counties that they're the first point of contact with. We have public safety individuals that work with the sheriff department, the law enforcement side, as well as the jail side, environmental consultants, assessor consultants that work with property assessors across the state, 4 county attorneys that their daily life is entailed in Tennessee county government law. We have 2 training departments, one in which Chris is a part of, called our County Officials Certificate Training Program. Then we have a county certificate finance officers program. We have technology staff people and marketing and communication staff people, and then we have a customer service team.
Wow. Sounds like a pretty big operation going on there. So I guess if you can, and feel free, any of you can, either of you can feel free to chime in, or you can both answer some of these questions. So again, just be relaxed about that. Tell me about some of the programs you just mentioned. A few, you kind of ran through them, but let's delve in even a little bit more. So when we're talking about county officials, or you're saying there's mayors and you've got all of these different entities that are kind of falling under this umbrella. Let's start from the top. Just kind of pick one of the programs or the services that you provide, and kind of explain that a little bit more in detail. Like, what is the day-to-day? What do they do?
So let me do 2 if you don't mind, and sure. Chris can chime in on the second. So here in Tennessee, we just had a election process the 1st of August. Mm-hmm. So every 4 years when that process takes place, all newly elected officials, we actually invite them to a training session, and that'll be held at the end of August. 4 years ago, we had a little over 1,000 individuals that we trained in 4 days to try to prepare them for office when they step their first day in office, which is September the 1st. We try to prepare them for everything they need to know day one. Our attorneys will give presentations from a legal standpoint of what they need to know. And then our other staff members, our county government consultants, will actually have breakout sessions. So the county mayors will meet with each other, the highway officials, the county commissioners will all have their breakout sessions to understand what they need to understand day one when they go in the office. So that's where we first meet them in training. One of the other things we offer to them is our county official certification training program, which Chris is a big part of that. And Chris, if you don't mind, go ahead and explain that.
I can do that. One other comment I'd like to make about the county officials orientation program. There are very few, if any, requirements for most people to run for election. Tennessee really encourages almost anybody to be able to run for office. So there aren't a lot of requirements. So a lot of these people, when they're elected, don't understand how government operates. They don't have any formal education for how they would do their job. And that's where our training programs really come into play. So we've got the orientation program that's our really first contact, our first point of actually telling them who we are and what services we provide and how they can be better as county officials. And then we provide many other training programs. I work most closely with the County Official Certificate Training Program. And this is probably our biggest and most diverse program amongst everything we do for training. And it's been around since the mid 90s. We've graduated people since 1995 in this program. There are about 750 people that are currently certified in our program. Certification takes anywhere from 96 to 115 hours, and it covers a wide range of subjects that are pertinent to all of our county officials and their employees. So we do things like teach them county government budgeting, county government audit, internal controls, how you manage your money, and all the things that you would manage carefully for county government. Because people watch county government, they actually want to make sure that all these things are handled correctly. In addition to that, they have to take a certain number of courses that are really highly specific to county government and taught by our own subject matter experts, people that are internal to our agency. Mm-hmm. So we really do our best to prepare them in training for what they're going to need to know to do the best in their offices.
Wow. Well, I can tell you now, after people start watching this, now you're going to have everybody trying to run for some type of election. So if you see an influx, then you might know why. No, I'm just playing. But that's very good information. Again, things that I never had any idea. Now, I did know that, your average everyday person could kind of run to be in some type of election, but just really hearing you say it like that, it just kind of makes the magnitude a little bit more. So thank you for sharing. What other programs or things that are you all involved in?
Chris mentioned internal controls. Mm-hmm. About 3 or 4 years, maybe a little longer than that. We work very closely with various state departments. And in this particular case, the comptroller of the state of Tennessee partnered with us for us to actually provide internal controls. It's very important because, as Chris mentioned, some of the financial magnitude that takes place in county government, there are some big budgets out there.
Right.
And unfortunately, everybody, for lack of a better term, are not safe around money. So you have to put some internal controls in place. So we partner with them. And that particular year, we went around the state in about 40 different locations. Normally, when we teach a class, it's normally in 3 or 4 different locations across the state. Mm-hmm. But because of magnitude and some of the thefts that had occurred at the local government area, we wanted to make sure we were out there where the people actually are. So we went to about 40 locations across the state to teach various internal control classes. And that helps the state with their bond ratings as well. So when the comptroller and their staff go meet with the various financial rating services, having a local control at the local level actually helps the state overall as well.
Good to know.
So one of the things about us, and that is a perfect example, is we're able to respond to immediate needs. A lot of the times we have the subject matter experts, we have staff on hand that actually know these things that we have a need for. So when we get these tasks and when certain different kind of emergencies or needs arise, we're able to respond to that.
It sounds like that sometimes it can be a lot of putting out fires sometimes, and then sometimes it's more the proactive approach. So like the trainings and things like that, you're trying to already have them be prepared and be aware of things to watch for throughout government. But then of course, stuff always happens too.
And that is the case because from our perspective, we are the group that can actually go in there and sit down side by side with you and show you how to make things work. As opposed to sometime when different areas of the state come in, they're coming in from a different perspective, and they may have to implement some policies in order for you to perform properly. But in our case, we're trying to train you and help you. It's sort of like you can give a person a fish or you can teach them to fish. We try to teach them how to fish so that they can mature and become better officials or better staff members.
I'll never forget. I used to have an old boss, and they would say, "You can give them the carrot and the stick." So I think y'all are the carrot. Y'all try to help. You're basically a support to them, literally. But then sometimes you gotta bring the stick in and say, "Hey, this ain't working." Yeah, so I understand. Now tell me a little bit about your public safety services. What's going on in that area?
So we have, and actually we have a position that's open as well. Just throw that out there. But we have a law enforcement consultant, and that individual actually works with the sheriffs and they're on the law enforcement side. So around here, we'll call them the blue light person. So those are the individuals that most likely us as regular citizens don't want to see on the street. But then we also have a jail management consultant, because from the county perspective, counties have to have a jail. The cities don't have to have a jail, but counties have to have a jail in place. So there are 95 jails across the state, 95 different structures across the state. So the sheriff is responsible for running the jail, and then in the unincorporated areas, they're also responsible for running the law enforcement side. So we train the law enforcement side as well as the jail side. Matter of fact, we mentioned that the county officials orientation program that'll take place, we also help with the new sheriff school as well. So they are required, the new sheriffs are required to have 80 hours of training pretty much when they get in office. They'll actually get 40 of those hours next week, and then the other 40 the second week of September. And we're very heavily involved in this training.
Okay. Now you said, that was quite a few hours that they're involved in that. So I guess it's pretty intense.
It's very intense. As Chris mentioned, most county officials are not required to have any certifications. Of course, the sheriff is required because he or she has to operate a firearm, so they have to have that certification. Then the highway officials are the only other group that has to have a certification, because in most cases they're building roads, so they need to have some kind of engineering knowledge.
Okay. Now for the we can get to this a little bit later, because I always want you to let people know, where people can get in contact with you. But you mentioned the position that was available as well. So would that be just they would go to your website to look for the details, job description? Is it out yet?
It is out, and that is the case. They can go to our website, which is CTAS.Tennessee spelled out .edu.
Okay. Thank you. Now, your environmental services. Before I'm a little bit familiar with environmental services. I have kind of been out and been kind of exposed to how people evaluate the earth and what potential, threats could be coming, or bird safety, all of those things. So tell me a little bit about how you all do environmental services, or how you're supporting the people that do that work.
So our environmental department got started in 1992-ish, mainly as a solid waste collection. So
Okay.
across the state, everybody need to make sure that their trash is picked up properly, either by a contractual service or a department within the county. So for about 20 years or so, we were basically in the solid waste business, helping counties understand how that process worked. 2012, 2014-ish, we became more an environmental group where we will provide studies on air quality or water runoff. So we look at the land air process as well. Um, so we'll basically provide services or studies in those areas for counties that are, if they're looking for a particular type of group to work on a particular environmental situation, we'll help them with that study to help them try to find the right resource to help them. Or we still are in the trash business, so to say. So we'll help them with their trash pickup. We've done some GIS processes to help them with their logistical pieces. We've done studies at their landfill to make sure that their intake is coming in properly. So anything environmental, if we don't have the resources, we'll partner with the state or help them look for other entities to help them with those processes. We have 2 individuals in that department as well.
Have you all ever done, to your knowledge, like a sound study, depending on where areas where the noise might be higher than it needs to be, or anything like that? Just curious.
No, we haven't. That would most likely be a state department that would do that.
Okay. Okay. Good. Chris, did you have anything? I just want to make sure I didn't leave you out.
I was going to say another thing in the environmental side is several of these places are operating recycling centers. So we have done training and assistance with the recycling centers also.
Okay, that's good. Yes, always stay as green as possible. So yes, that's great. Now, you touched on legal services as far as some if something's going on within some of these counties, trying to make sure that they have a resource for that. Expound a little bit more on that.
So we have 4 attorneys, full-time attorneys on staff.
Mm-hmm.
The way our attorneys operate, they operate by subject matter. Okay. So one attorney may be responsible for the trustees, one for the county clerks, the register of deeds, so forth and so on. And generally how that they work is those 8 county government consultants that I mentioned earlier that are located across the state, he or she may go out and an elected official or a staff person may have a question. We bring that back to our attorneys for them to research and make sure that we're giving them the best answer that we know of to help them with that situation. Our attorneys are also subject matter experts in our training program. One of the things, it's a little off course on your question, but one of the things our staff, because they are subject matter experts, on the technical classes that we offer in our COCTP, our County Official Certification Training Program, our staff teach the technical courses because they pertain to county government. They pertain to local government in Tennessee. And then on our soft skills or our management skill type courses, we contract for the most part, or Chris or one of our training consultants may do some of those classes as well. Mm-hmm. So we provide the technical side of our training, and then we contract out as well. So our attorneys are very versed, as I indicated earlier, in the law as it pertains to Tennessee county government. If a new law is coming up, if a state legislature is trying to do something on behalf of his or her constituents in their area, one of our attorneys are most likely contacted to make sure that that bill won't affect something else that they're not looking at. They may have a blind spot on. We also deal with their lobbyists that work on behalf of county government as well. Our legal staff work with those lobbyists to make sure that even though they're the lobbyists and they're working with the General Assembly on a daily basis, they still will contact us when they're getting ready to try to change legislation or introduce a new bill. So they'll contact our attorneys for that as well. And then they may, if it has a dollar value, a fiscal note associated with it, one of our budget or finance people may get involved as well.
Okay. Now, I know you mentioned in one of the training programs, of course, you've got obviously people that are coming from all over, and you said one is more soft skill versus your technical, right? So, how has it been, or what's the environment when you have people that are coming from all different areas of the state? Because I travel and do work in several different areas, and they can be so different. Like literally, I'm like, okay, Memphis is one way, Knoxville is completely different, Nashville is completely, like, they are so different. And then I can only imagine in some of the more rural counties, what is your take on once you bring all those people together? Like, how does that fit in? How does it, I guess, gel? How do they gel? How well do people get along? How well? What's the environment like? I'm just curious.
So when you look at our training classes, you'll notice that each of the regions where we do classes has their own personality. They really do kind of have this unique ability to interact with each other and interact with the instructors we bring in. And some of them are more quiet. Some of them are a little more interactive. But you'll see that most everybody really has a great respect for all their fellow participants and for the subject matter experts we're bringing in. I think they've really gotten to the point where they understand we're really going to check people out and make sure that we're comfortable with the materials that someone's going to present before we put them in front of our customers. Certain groups, they seem to kid around more with each other. They seem to be more talkative, and if you get really far into East Tennessee, they're really quiet. They're really thoughtful, but they're not really talkative. And, sometimes when you get to Jackson and West Tennessee, you find that people are much more talkative over there. And so it's kind of interesting to see all the personalities and make sure that you get to mingle with all the people. A lot of having training classes and getting out there is building relationships. And that's one of the things that our agency really excels at, is building relationships with county officials across the entire state.
Yes. So just from hearing about it, to me, I would think that opportunity would be invaluable, especially if I get to talk to somebody that's basically doing my job, but doing it in another area. Maybe they've come up with different techniques and tricks that I can implement, and vice versa. So I would love to be able to sit with someone that's doing what I do and have those conversations. Or I would think it would be eye-opening, because I'm sure you have your standard processes and procedures on some things, but then there's always that gray area in other things. And I would think it would provide a good opportunity to learn and grow and really be able to kind of have that dialogue around how can we make this better.
And that's one of the things we do stress on. Lady, you brought up a good point. The networking piece is invaluable. To know that there are other individuals across the state going through similar type situations that I am, and to see how they overcame those particular circumstances is invaluable. It sometimes has more value to it than actually hearing what the technical information provided is.
Right. And I'm sure that if there's a good conversation that happens, I'm sure they exchange contact information. And then when something's happening, they might be sending an email or picking up the phone to them, in addition to having your staff and everything available to them as well. So I think that is absolutely wonderful. Now, I want to make sure I didn't miss any of your programs. I know we hit on legal, definitely hit the environmental, some of the training services, public safety. Just want to make sure, was there anything else that we missed, or any other topics that you want to make sure that people are aware? These are some of the things that you're doing.
Well, one other thing that we do, we have 2 property assessment consultants.
Okay.
And this was actually at the urging of their association. They went out and lobbied the comptroller's office to provide us with the funding for these positions. And the funding that we received from the comptroller's office is invaluable to what actually happens. Those two individuals have gone across the state and worked with property assessors across the state of Tennessee and helping them to evaluate property properly. That brings in more revenue for the state. So they pay for themselves multiple times.
Wow.
And that's just another dealing of the partnership that we have with various state departments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I always like to also know just a little bit more about you. So, are you all from the Nashville area or Tennessee, or could you just tell me just a little bit about yourselves real quick?
Chris, you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. I actually moved to Tennessee to take this job 23 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up in North Alabama, and so I'm not far from home. Get home pretty regularly, and really have enjoyed this job much more than I would have ever expected to 23 years ago.
That is amazing.
The relationships are just beyond anything you could imagine.
So are you familiar with when you say North Alabama, are you familiar with like South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, or Stevenson, Alabama?
Been through there. I know the
Okay.
area.
Okay.
Because you go through there. If you go from Huntsville to Chattanooga, you go through there.
Yeah.
And I have a good friend who was raised in South Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, both of my parents, one from South Pittsburgh and one from Stevenson. So believe me, I've been there more than I ever would like to. And John?
Yeah, and we don't hold that Alabama thing against Chris either. I was actually born in Nashville. We moved to Ohio, and I've been back here ever since my sophomore year in high school. So I'm a Nashvilleian by heart. Love Nashville.
Yes.
Attended public schools in Nashville. McGavick High grad, TSU grad, and a Lipscomb grad. Yeah.
So real quick, who are y'all's favorite football teams? Do you got one?
TSU and UT for me.
Okay. Chris, do you like football?
Oh, yeah. Auburn and UT.
Oh, that sounds there's still a little battle going on there.
There's only one game a year, if that it's a real problem.
Oh, I love it. I would love to be the fly on the wall to see how that goes. But real quick, just tell us one more time, how can people get in touch as far as finding out about your program, or maybe they have officials or want to just see more or learn more about what your programs are doing?
You can go to our website. Again, it's CTAS.Tennessee spelled out.edu. One page on our site I think people can learn more about county government. We're actually trying to figure out a way to get civics back in high school. But if that link called Eli, you can learn pretty much anything you need to know about a particular county office or different areas of county government on that piece of our site.
Okay. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate you. And thank you for turning into D-ConneXion TV. And we will see you next time.